Welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. Columbus, Ohio, where are you?
I know. Where are they?
We just did
What did you
analytics.
do?
I'm Randall Carlisle. This is Rachel Santizo.
Hi.
This is Charlotte, and we'll introduce her in a second. Columbus, Ohio, for some reason, for week after week, has been our number one viewing and listening city.
But I have to ask, Randall, what did you do?
I must have done something wrong.
I do.
You know,
I feel
because
like that's valid.
We just checked analytics, and Columbus fell way back, and L.A. and what's the other? Was it the Bronx? L.A. and
It was Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. Brooklyn's there, but Columbus isn't. So if you're watching in Columbus, spread the word. And the other thing we found out is, because it changes when just in the general area, what the most popular area is. Can you guess what?
No, I was on a roll until you asked that question.
I know, because you didn't hear about it ahead of time.
I didn't.
South Jordan, thank you very much for
Ooh.
watching. So, and then Salt Lake City. So
Thank you, South Jordan.
now that we know, this is one of the most watched and listened to podcasts dealing with addiction and recovery. And we are excited today to have a superstar in recovery at Odyssey House. Charlotte, welcome.
Hi guys, it's good to be here.
Are you embarrassed by that introduction?
A little bit. I would like to identify as a superstar though. I will keep that.
Well, everything I've observed, you are a superstar. Before we get into Charlotte's story, she's part of a team that we call Jets, which are sort of the creme de la creme of our clients. Is that a good way to describe what a Jet is in the Odyssey House program?
So the JETS program is the Junior Executive Training Program. It's people within the Odyssey House program that have exhibited leadership qualities. They are leaders among their house. They are doing well in their program, and they have a desire to come back and work at Odyssey.
And
Well
we would love to
said.
have you come back and work at Odyssey. And the idea, it's not just somebody says, "Oh, I think you're good for Jets." You got to go through some crap to get there.
Yeah, there
Yes.
is actually a process. So the process is a current member of JETS, either staff or somebody in residential, needs to nominate you and then sponsor you. So once you're sponsored, you have to do a JETS proposal, which is similar to an interview. And then you come in front of all of us and you do your proposal, why you want to be a Jet, what you're going to bring to the group. And if the group agrees, then you are then a Jet. And you can't get a board or intervention while you're in the JETS program. If you do, then we ask you to bow out. So it is quite the process, but it then helps you hold yourself to a higher standard too in the house.
And I heard that one no vote doesn't let you in then, right?
It doesn't, because we're a collective team. So if there's one person that has reservations, those reservations are probably very valid, and we want to honor whoever that person is, whatever their reservations are, we want to honor that feeling as well.
So tell us how, if we can delve into your past a little, what's your past story leading up to you finally coming into Odyssey House?
Sure. So my drug addiction started young, when I was 11 or 12 years old.
11 or 12?
Yeah, and that was, my mother was a schizophrenic, and I was having a lot of behavioral issues, so she would start giving me Xanax. So I started with my addiction very young, but I was able to curb it for a few years when I went to high school. I became a collegiate athlete. I went to the University of Utah for swimming, so I was able to get on the right path. But later, once I was in college, the standards and the amount I was supposed to perform being a college athlete and having to keep a 4.0 or a 3.8, it was too much. So I started doing a lot of Adderall. And that, in my head, was okay because it was prescribed. But when that ran out, I had to find other things. So
Yeah.
I started to lose a lot of sleep. Once I lost sleep, I would have psychotic breaks. So that would land me in psychiatric institutions. So I went throughout my 20s going through that cycle of having an addiction, going to the psych ward, getting stabilized, and then as soon as I got stable, I'd go back on the streets. I'd stop taking my medication. I'd end up living in motels, hotels, and for a period of about off and on for 10 years, I struggled with chronic homelessness, and I would go back out and I would have to escort to try to pay for myself to find somewhere to sleep. And then I was in and out of psych wards. I think the longest time I spent was a year in Georgia State, a psychiatric institution, because there was nobody that was willing to take custody of me, because my psychiatric problems were so severe and my addiction was so severe that I was just too much for anybody to handle. Eventually, I did stabilize out a little bit. I was still using every day, but I considered this functional because I could still get up and go to work, but I was using heroin every day and methamphetamines every day. I lost my dad in 2016, and then I spiraled after that point in time and have not been able to acquire a job due to criminal history. So I did my best. I actually started my own LLC so I could just acquire some work in construction. But the drug abuse was getting so bad after I lost my father. About in December a little before December, I got kicked out of my home. I was living with my fiance's parents in the basement. I've never lived on my own. I've never had my own car. But I finally got kicked out of my family's house, and at 36 years old, I was back hotel shopping. I was escorting again, and I hadn't done that for years, and I was so upset. I was so sad that I was back to that place, that I was back on the streets, and that I'd done nothing with my life. I just sat there in the hotels, and I called around, and I looked at transitional housing, I looked at sober housing, and I finally decided that I don't want to just have a place to stay. I want to do better. I want to have a life, and I didn't think that I deserved that, but now that I've been at Odyssey for a little while, I know that I do, and I'm so grateful that I picked the hard program. I picked some place that was going to be long-term and that was going to work on my behaviors, because I've done the drug addiction treatments. I've treated the addiction, and that doesn't help. If I treat the addiction, the underlying problem is still there. Yeah. So I really wanted to figure out why I use in the first place and what are the barriers keeping me from having a normal, functional life and the life that I know I deserve and that I want. So I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I wanted to do something different. So I called Odyssey, and honestly, by the grace of God, they had a bed open, and I was in the next day.
How long have you been in?
I have been there since December 14th. I went to the VOA on December 10th, so almost 6 months.
Wow.
Wow. You are incredibly intelligent.
Thank you.
Like, as you speak and your LLC and all these different things, like, you are incredibly intelligent. It seems, like you have you say psychotic break, and then you have your substance use and different things. How is Odyssey combining all the things together because all these things you're saying, and I'm like, wow, really?
Yeah.
Because you would not guess that just by the way you speak, the way you present yourself. So what is lining up for you in the short amount of time of 6 months?
Right, and that is a really short amount of time.
Yeah.
Considering how long you were leading the other life.
And when I think about that, that was 20 years of, and it's interesting because I look at the people that have institutionalization from being in prison, and it's very similar to my own. I've been institutionalized in psych wards, but it's very similar. So the way things are lining up now is because I'm focusing on behavioral modification, it's kind of taking where I'm at with my mental health and taking the behaviors that are exhibited when my mental health is acting up. So I have borderline personality disorder.
Okay.
So when that's acting up, I almost have this core belief of evil, this core belief that I am intrinsically bad. And when that starts acting up, I then start acting out. I'll start isolating people. I'll start being mean to people. So focusing on the behaviors and not the substances, because when I would use to make myself social. So when I don't have those aids, the symptoms of my mental health condition are exacerbated. They're much more obvious when I'm not using substances. So it's helping me realize everything's all connected as one. Everything that I do is coming from an earlier place, an earlier trauma, and starting to do EMDR for my trauma and doing a lot of therapy has been able to help me work through that previous trauma that I had actually entirely blacked out. But I do think it's really interesting to see how similar my thought process is to those who have been incarcerated for 20 years. You get into the cycle of not knowing how to care for yourself. When you're given 3 meals a day and you don't have to work, you have a place that's warm to sleep at night, you stop learning or stop knowing how to take care of yourself.
Yeah. It's
a really hard cycle to break, and we don't know how to have a job for more than 6 months. We don't know how to acquire a car. When we were at the Sentencing Commission yesterday, they were talking about generational wealth, and my brain was like, what? I know that there are people that live like that, but that has not been my experience. And the people I surround myself with, having money from day to day is something that we don't have the option of. So that with Odyssey being, something that I don't have to worry about paying for, it's been able to help me just focus on what I need to be there for and hopefully avoid going to psych wards again.
I'm trying to figure out the time frame here. How many years did you struggle on and off compared to how many months you've spent in Odyssey?
Yeah.
The reason I ask that is a lot of people say, I don't want to go to Odyssey because they're a long program, they're a hard program, and I'd rather do 30 days and get out.
Definitely.
So how long age-wise?
So I think that the drug addiction got really bad when I was in my early 20s. So if I'm being very specific, I would say 16 years. 16 years of going in and out of homelessness, in and out of psych wards, in and out of treatments. And I've been to, I think, 5 drug treatment programs. And they were the 30 days, the 60 days, posh resorts, and they did nothing. But when I found Odyssey, I thought it was a year standard. And that seemed like a lot, but like nothing, because a year out there, you don't even know time's passing. It becomes every day is the same. Every day is a hustle. So you don't even realize time is passing when I'm out on the streets. So a year here in the 6 months I've been here has gone by in the blink of an eye. I don't even realize that I was in there for Christmas and New Year's, and it just becomes not a factor because every day you start being excited to wake up. I'm excited to be involved with my community and getting opportunities to go do service work. So I know that that's an argument all the time with people, that it's such a long commitment, but tell me that when you're sitting on the sidewalk begging for money. I mean, I know it's a commitment, but what you're doing every single day is so much harder. It's so much harder. And I know when you're active in your addiction, you're just so tired. You just want to feel safe and you want to feel okay for a minute. And if you find treatment, you can have that. You can have someplace that you don't have to worry. You don't have to watch your back every single second. And it's a relief. It's a relief to feel safe for a minute.
If you're watching or listening to this, think about the fact she said 15 or 16 years of in and out of institutions, being on the street, using, and then how could you realistically expect going into some place for 30 days to change 16 years of behavior?
Yeah.
It's even a year is it sounds like it's not enough because you're just making such a massive change. You did the same thing. You were out on the street. You were homeless and everything, sleeping under cars for how long?
Yeah, absolutely. And I got sober. And to put it in simple terms, I wanted to ask you. You said you've never owned a car. You've never had your own place. So 6 months of treatment after 16 years, of substance use, psych wards, and I think that even like the incarcerated feelings and stuff like that, like being an empowered human being on your feet. How do you feel 6 months of getting your own car in your own place? Because Odyssey House offers like transitional housing, like they're a holistic approach, like from A to Z.
Right.
How do you feel about having your own place or getting your own car? Like, where are you at today with that? Like, what has 6 months done for you as far as being on your own 2 feet?
I'm excited. I'm excited about life, and I'm scared. I can't argue that there's a lot of trepidation moving forward in having the bills and just basic things.
Right.
Like
And it's simple, but it really is a big
big
deal.
Right. And even getting your car registered, getting your car to the shop, paying your electrical bills. I don't know how to do that. So when we think about, balancing our checkbook, we don't really have to do anymore, but all the things that Odyssey House offers me, like financial planning and having somebody that will help me through all of this, I'm excited about it, but I know that even when I transition to sober living, my plan has to be very specific. I have to have a very to the penny budget so that I can plan everything. Especially in early sobriety, you need so many different types of support, so many different plans to cover yourself. Because just one plan, like, okay, well, if I relapse, I'll go to the VOA. That's not good enough. And and really, I think what's been amazing to me too is a relapse starts so much sooner than you using drugs.
Right.
And it's scary. I don't know that people know that. And it really is probably months, probably for, I would say safely, at least 2 months before a relapse, it's coming. Your behaviors start to
It's
lead
visible.
towards that. Yeah.
Right.
Everybody says that, and people don't understand that. And
Right.
it's before you actually start using. I was a functional alcoholic for decades, okay?
Yeah.
And I finally
Yeah.
went to treatment, got clean, stayed clean for 9 months, okay? And then I relapsed. And I remember thinking maybe a month or two before I relapsed, I could probably meet my friends at a bar again, and it'd be okay
Yeah.
because I could drink soda water
Right.
while they're drinking whatever. And then I ended up, and I remember going to a bar several times and drinking soda water, and then saying to myself, I could probably have a beer or two, and then you're just down the, and then I had 20
Right.
that night or
Right.
something.
It's those behaviors, the little
Absolutely,
behaviors,
yeah.
like you isolate, you stop showing up, you have thoughts, you have different things.
Absolutely. Well, and I think what's interesting about that too, Randall, is, Bill W. in the big book states that, he tried an eater softer way. He would put milk with his whiskey, trying to, water it down, just
Right.
find all these
I
ways
know.
that
Right.
he could get
Moving
around.
somewhere else, getting a different job,
And
changing
different-
lives.
Changing everything. And we do. We try everything. We change everything in our environment. We change everything about our lives, but we don't change the problem. The problem is me.
Ourselves.
Right.
And the way I view the world, the way I perceive situations, that's the problem. And I'm so grateful to be where I'm at, because the way I think about things now, when someone approaches me with a problem, it's more of a solution finding. It's I'm so sorry I made you feel that way, or let's figure out why I made you feel that way and work on it. Not just okay, well, now let's go fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Because before that was, I just didn't want to deal with you. If you had a problem with me, that's great, that's your problem. And now
Yeah.
I'm realizing that I see myself best in the eyes of a peer. I don't know my
Yeah.
own actions. So learning that what you see in me, that's going to help me be healthier. And
Right.
I think when you get out of treatment and you're on that pink cloud, I think we call it the pink cloud of recovery,
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
where
yeah.
we're doing so great and we're so proud of
Everything.
ourselves.
Yeah.
And you want to go to the bar and sit down with your old friends and have a soda water, and you probably got home and you were so proud of yourself.
Yeah, I was.
And you're like, I made it.
Yeah.
And but yeah, you're in surrounding yourself with these huge triggers and the behaviors of other people that are
Right.
not going to be healthy for you. So it really is about changing everything about you and how you process things and how you think. And one of my big fears in sobriety is when I get those things and I am proud of myself, staying humble. And Jason actually asked me this in our family group, is how do you keep staying humble when you have accomplished a lot? And I think for me, that's why I want to work in recovery, because I have to remember how bad it is,
Yeah.
how bad I was when I came in. And you watch people walk through the doors of Odyssey, and we're just so broken. I mean, coming from the VOA, coming from prison, and I mean, you're super duper skinny. You've got probably scars on your face, and watching people heal from that, I need to remember that I can go back to that in a heartbeat. It wouldn't even take a month. I
Yeah.
would be back there in a week, or
Yeah.
a couple
Yeah.
Yeah,
days.
instantly.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is key. I mean, Randall and I both have 10 years.
10
you
years,
know, and
yeah.
it is that reminder, and it's being of service. Like, I need to be reminded, I need to be growing and learning constantly. If I ever have this figured out, that's when I will be scared.
Right?
Is when
Right,
I
I
think
worry
I have it.
sometimes when I think, I
Yeah.
haven't thought about having a drink for a long time now, and then that worries me
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you become complacent, or I haven't been to a meeting for a long time, because
Yeah.
I don't need to anymore because I'm okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not okay. I'll be an alcoholic
Yeah.
for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm not a huge AA person simply because I'm Charlotte. Yes, I happen to be an addict, but that's not all I am. So I have a hard time standing up saying, Charlotte, I'm an addict, because yes, that is a part of me, but that's not everything I am. So when I do move forward, recognizing that that's a problem for you and that you can't be complacent, but that's not everything that I am, and knowing that I am a whole person, and Odyssey treats the person as a whole.
Yes.
And that's what I love, because no
Yeah.
other treatment I've been to does this.
Right.
I mean, every treatment I've been to, it's been AA from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. And it's just shoving the big book down people's throat does not work. And that can be a factor, that can be a part of your recovery, but you need to have a huge arsenal so that you can stay as safe as possible. And I can't even imagine. I envy you guys getting to 10 years. That's incredible. But I would imagine you have to stay even more humble just so you can keep remembering. I mean, do you guys even think about when you were out there and how much that struggle was?
Yeah, I think it's giving back to our community and staying that kind of boots on the ground too. We do a lot of work and stay connected to our population of
I
people.
have to play the tape
Yeah.
because I find when I think back to my drinking days, I think back to fun times, great parties, picking up women in bars, blah blah
Yep.
blah blah blah. But I think that's the way the human brain deals with negative past. You remember some of the good times, and
Yeah.
I have to force myself to think about the fact that at the end, I blacked out every single time I drank.
Yeah.
I stumbled home. I had a homeless person help me into my condo downtown because I was passed out on a curb of a street.
Yeah.
You know, and I have to remember those things because that's not prominent in my brain.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and that's interesting you mentioned that because our brain romanticizes even trauma. You remember the good times, and I didn't have
Yeah.
fun as a drug addict. I didn't have fun,
Yeah.
never. I didn't, and that's what I'll remember. Even I see a movie that's glamorizing drug use or guns, and my brain's like, "Oh, that's so cool." It's not cool.
Right.
Yeah.
It's horrifying, and I realized one day when I was sitting in a room that there were people around me with automatic weapons, and that I was just sitting there getting high, and that is not normal. That's not okay. And all I remember sometimes, even in treatment now, I'll think about, I had so much fun this one time high. No, because then I had to come down eventually, and when I came down, the paranoia would start, and I would be, looking out
Yeah.
my windows for days,
Yeah.
and it's horrifying. And if I think about that whole tape, the whole spectrum of not being able to eat for days, not being able to sleep for days, not being a part of anything other than sitting in my room by myself because that's all I could handle, it's so hard to remember everything about your addiction,
Right.
not just the fun times, and it's so crucial to staying sober for me.
And working at, I mean, I've got to say, it's a lot easier staying sober working at Odyssey
Oh, yeah,
than it was like in a
sure.
TV station because we all went out after the 10 o'clock
Yeah.
news, we'd go out
Yeah.
to bars and stuff like that.
And
you
it
know.
becomes so socially normal, like
Yeah.
especially drinking. That's one of the hardest substances to stay away from because it's so socially acceptable. And when you do and have yourself around alcohol, people are like, why don't you drink? You have to then explain why you're sober. Oh, did you have a problem?
'Cause
No, I
I-
just don't want to
Yeah,
drink right now.
yeah.
right?
I'm an alcoholic, okay, and I had a bad time.
Yeah.
And now we have that conversation on the table.
Yes.
Perfect.
Really, how bad was it?
Well, clearly
Yeah.
I'm sober now, so it was that bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you find it easier working in, and I think I admire you for wanting to get into working at a place like Odyssey or
Right.
some other treatment. Rachel's been working, how long? I've been here 5 years, but you worked on and off at Odyssey,
Yeah, for-
FTR, and now
Yeah.
working at
Yeah.
USARA.
Yeah, and FTR, I mean, that's been the one thing is the boot camp. I've been going to boot camp for over 9 years, every Saturday at 10 a.m., unless if I've been sick or going on vacation. I mean, it keeps me. Boot camp actually is my main class because it reminds me, because boot camp is the one class that's free and that people can come in, whether if you're 24 hours sober or 20 years sober.
Yeah.
And so that's my reminder, and that's why that class is so important to me. And so you need that and that consistency. So that's like my AA, my home group, my everything is just
Yeah.
that one class.
And
so
you're going to have to, and it sounds like you're planning on it already.
yeah,
Is hanging around sober people, either at work or in social
Yeah,
activities
right.
or whatever.
Amazingly, FTR has been a big part of my recovery too. Fit to Recover, I didn't know existed, and as soon as I got into treatment and I was well enough to go,
Yeah.
I would go because I would get high fives. And I'm in a no-touch facility, so
absolutely, right? That
I was all
connection,
about that
right,
physical
yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
But I started to feel proud of myself, and I've struggled with an eating disorder for my whole life. So working out now finally and feeling good about my body because I
Yeah.
earned it, it's a very different feeling. But knowing that I
Beautiful.
can come back and I can volunteer at FTR and I can have another way to have a community, it
Yeah.
is, I mean, almost every time at FTR, I almost cry at the end because I'm just so
Nice.
grateful and I'm so happy to have that connection with my body and my peers because it has been such a big part. And there's so many people in my house right now that every week we're like, I can't structure, I can't have commitments at this time, this day. So
Yeah.
I've got FTR. That's my priority.
Yeah.
We've just got to go. And it's not about the workout. It's about what I've learned is like with the trauma is I've numbed out my body for so many years
Yeah.
because I had to survive. So working out and just feeling, oh, that part of me is sore. That's new. Like I couldn't have told you that my knee was sore before because I just would numb everything out because I had to.
Right.
So now being able to tell you what my body's doing, that's a great reward. That's a huge success for me.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how many people it helps. So I will be at boot camp.
Yes, I'm
Together.
looking forward to it.
I'll watch.
It's a new
Oh,
type of
okay.
empowerment.
Randall will be our cheerleader.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
I will hold you to it.
I hope I see you. It's a new
For
type of
sure.
empowerment. It's just these
Yeah.
new ways to like feel good about ourselves, and we're doing it for us. And it's a good type of pain.
Yeah,
So when you
for
are
sure.
sore, it's like, wait, I'm in pain, but it feels good to be in pain, and it's okay to be in
Yeah,
pain
I'm not going
today.
to numb myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's true to know that all the eggs in one basket. So I went
Yeah.
through Odyssey House, so it was behavioral, and I needed that, right? And then I found FTR, and then I'm big on service work, and then I did AA when I was 5 years sober,
Yeah.
and then sponsor and all these things.
Yeah.
Like there's so many different elements to this whole thing. Sometimes I just need to call Randall and say I'm a mess.
Yeah.
Or I have thoughts. I mean, I've cried to Randall several times. Sometimes
Yeah.
I just need to cry.
Yeah.
You have
Randall's
to.
like, you know.
Yeah, as
it's-
long as you have a sober friend that you can.
Yeah.
Where do you? This is a tough question. Where do you see yourself going in the future? What do you?
So what I'd like to do is I probably have another 3 to 6 months in the house, and then I will transition to sober living and do outpatient. Once I graduate outpatient, I want to come right back in as staff. I want to get my outpatient done as quickly as I can so I can be gone from the house as little as possible. But where I see myself in a year is right back at Mill Creek as staff. In 5 years, I'd like to have even my own little apartment. That would be amazing
in
for
a
me.
car?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's start with a bike.
Okay.
That's a lot.
That's cool.
Maybe like an electric bike so I don't have to make an effort. But I wanted, the one thing you guys mentioned before we started was just the encounter process, and I just wanted to speak to that because I've heard a lot of people leave over that process.
Yeah.
And when I was at the VOA, I had so many people tell me, don't go there, it's a snitch program.
Yeah.
And I hate that word, number one,
Yeah.
because it's not about that. And
Mhm.
so many people leave the program because they're held accountable. When you are finally held accountable for your actions and you're sat down in a room and said, you did this and it hurt this many people, that's really hard to stomach. And most of us bail because we can't deal with that. We've never had to face how bad we've impacted people. And even I've been doing my impact letters and I just finished those.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And it's liberating to get done, but it has been so powerful to recognize I didn't just cause my dad to become a workaholic because I was an addict at home. I caused him, these emotional problems, these social problems, because he couldn't socialize with his friends because all he had to talk about was his addict daughter at home manipulating him. So he lost friends, he lost sleep, he lost income. So there were so many more things that I affected than just, me and my dad have a bad relationship. I was affecting everything. So recognizing that and having to sit in that pain
Yeah.
and use it for good. We have this tendency when someone's in pain to want to fix, and I do it too. Like someone at the house will be having a bad day, and I just want to go be like, hey, it's going to be okay. Here's a way you can get through this. Here's a way you can fix this. But that's not what we need to do. Just feel that pain, sit in it. I
Right.
mean, just sit and cry for a minute. That's what you have to feel that to be able to move forward. If you don't, then it's just going to sit there and it's unprocessed.
Well, the truth is, you don't know recovery without suffering.
Yeah.
You just don't.
That's the thing. I mean, there is no magic. It'd be wonderful if there was a pill that could.
Oh, it'd be great.
It
Yeah.
eliminates the addictive nature of your brain. And you
Yeah.
just, okay, I'm okay
Yeah.
now. But,
Yeah.
but recovery takes hard work. And you
Yeah.
think about your description of, all the things you go through on it. People don't even realize how structured your life is in a place like Odyssey as it needs to be.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
you had a totally unstructured life before.
Yeah. And it is very hard to handle. I mean, it's very hard to have people tell you what you can do, what you can't do. But my best thinking got me here. So my problem solving, my planning ended me up on the streets. So I need that. I need someone to tell me when I can't eat, when I can eat, what I can have in my room. And it's hard to watch your room get searched every week, but that's one of the prices you pay to be in a safe environment and to get well. So when I hear, all these gripes about the program, there are reasons for it, and
Yeah.
you will earn that trust. One of the best things about where I'm at right now is I'm starting to earn trust. We were able to walk down to Meadowbrook yesterday, and I was just so liberated by
Yes.
that. It was like 6 blocks,
Yeah.
The
but
freedom to walk.
yeah, our house trusted us enough, a group of 5 or 6 of us, to walk down 39 South to a different house, and I was just so proud of myself because
Good.
we walked down there. It was a really cool feeling. So as you earn that trust, and when the program manager looks at me and says, Charlotte, I trust you to do this, Yeah.
Anne is the best.
You just soar.
Yeah.
I love Anne so much.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that she's my boss. And when I went to disco, she had me be the Renos coordinator. And it was so empowering to have her trust me with that and to have her say, "Sure, good job." And it's little, but you know it's coming from a genuine place, and you know that you've earned it, and it means so much more than all these people that would just be like, "Oh, you're so cool."
Well, and
Or-
I love that a female is the Renos coordinator. Can I just
Yeah.
say that? That is badass.
I know.
Yes.
We are out of time. The thing that I hope anybody watching or listening gets from this is we always talk about the stigma around people in addiction. And if Charlotte had not shared her story with us,
Yeah.
and we'd been talking about something like politics or the news or something, you wouldn't know that you had that background. And so it's not, I don't know what kind of stigma people listening to this or watching this podcast have, but there are intelligent people out there.
Right, or even people in psych wards.
Yeah,
Like,
in psych
you know,
wards, yeah. And they just need help. And it's a disease that we're all dealing with, and we're going to have it for the rest of our lives.
Yep.
But luckily, it's not fatal. It doesn't have to be fatal.
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there is hope. And that's the biggest thing in the world you can remember is that there is hope. As long as you can keep fighting. Even if you've been out there for 20 years, 30 years, it doesn't matter. Tomorrow's a new day, and keep fighting. 'Cause you
I'm
can make
impressed
it.
by you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Isn't she cool?
Agreed. She's
Yeah.
she's the best. Like I'm really proud of you, and
Thank
I'm
you.
glad that you're here to speak.
Yeah.
And I hope you keep speaking.
I will. And
We
thank
need you.
Thank
I'm
you for
grateful to
being
be
our
here.
guest. Thank you for
Bye, guys.
watching another edition of Odyssey House Journals.